Social fitness takes work. That relationships don't work on themselves or heal themselves. They need attention, they need time, they need effort. There are specific directions you can go in. That research has given us labels, have given us these keystones to think about who is in my life, how frequently, to what extent, to meet what need. And that can give you some ideas of what you might want to do differently so that your social fitness is getting up to where you'd like it to be. Hello, and welcome to the 2025 Mental Health Awareness Month podcast series. Today's topic is social fitness. My name is Dr. Chris Wachholz. I am a psychologist in private practice here in the Minneapolis area. For all intents and purposes, today I am your coach in the mental health gymnasium of fitness. As such, I'd like to draw an early parallel to today's topic towards physical fitness. So when you think about your relationship with physical fitness, cardio, strength training, stretching, agility, yoga, meditation, whatever the case may be. We know that that takes time, takes effort, takes energy, takes prioritization. We also know that sometimes the benefit of that fitness work doesn't pay off right away. Sometimes we have to wait a little while for the aggregate gain to be noticed. And that's an interesting parallel to what we're going to talk about with social fitness today. This topic largely comes out of the work of Dr. Robert Waldinger and his team at Harvard, who are still in the process of continuing an extraordinarily long longitudinal study about wellness in general. And a lot of this comes out of his book, The Good Life, which I think is an important topic for us to think about, is where is the evidence, where is the research telling us over decades about wellness? So social fitness, welcome to the gym. I'd like you to think of 7 beakers, cups of water, whatever the case may be. There are 7. And this is similar to the physical fitness of muscle groups, cardiovascular wellness, etc. And there's 2 separate tracks I want to take in the next few minutes with you. One are these 7 topics. They're called keystones. And I want to talk a little bit about a way to navigate the relationships that you have on a grid, which might sound a little interesting, but it can be very informative in terms of where do you put your time, effort, and energy when it comes to social fitness. So here we go. The first thing I need you to do is think about people in your life. Friends, family, partner, kids, coworkers, colleagues, acquaintances, whatever the case may be. Just kind of clear your mind for a little while and just think about the people in your life, the characters in your story, so to speak. And then as I go through these different keystones, I want you to think about who might go where. One of the things that we know from a general sociological standpoint is that we want to be thoughtful about the ways we get our needs met from other people. And that generally speaking, we don't want to expect or need too much from too few. And I try to use my words carefully because there's no evidence-based recipe about a person should have 1 friend or 2 friends or 10 friends or anything like that. It is about your intentional effort in giving energy to the people that you choose for the reasons that you choose. So one of the things that we're looking to increase here is that level of intentionality. In no particular order, I want you to think about security and safety as one of our keystones. Who might you reach out to in a time of crisis? If you need help right now, who is that person or people for you? And don't worry about, you can write this down. This would be very interesting if you did, but this is not a loaded situation. There's no right or wrong. It's just think about honesty for you and your life and your people. Okay, keystone number 2 is learning and growth. These are individuals who might encourage you to try new things, take chances, pursue your goals. I have a list of my friends and people who meet these needs for me. When I did this work in advance, I found it interesting because I had a number of people land in a number of categories that I didn't necessarily think about. And it's made me kind of reflect about, am I okay with this? Do I need to diversify a little bit? Am I asking too much? Am I giving similarly to these folks? So it's been an interesting internal experience for me to go through this as I look at some of the notes that I've even made. Another keystone is emotional closeness and confiding. So who knows the most about you? Who are you vulnerable with? Who do you ask for advice from? And whose advice do you trust? You feel safe with these folks. Next one is identity affirmation and shared experience. This might be someone that you've known for a while, someone who's shared a lot of experiences with you, someone who knows where you came from, who knows your story. Next one is romantic intimacy. And when we look at this from the research standpoint, it's really about satisfaction. Are we satisfied with this nature of a relationship in our lives? The sixth keystone is around help, informational and practical. Who do you call when your faucet is leaking or when your car is banging or your Wi-Fi won't work? What's interesting when I was doing this is I'm thinking, my mind really kind of started with my friends and family and didn't expand very much. And then I realized that there is a guy who I know through my brother-in-law who is an electrician, and I text him and call him whenever something happens related to electricity. I would not consider him a friend, which is not a disparaging reflection, but he is a fantastic person to have in my phone if my electricity goes out or something isn't working quite right. So what I learned was I was able to expand my thoughtfulness related to who am I even thinking of when I think of the people in my life and my own social fitness in these different keystone areas. And then last but not least, fun and relaxation. Who do you have fun with? Who do you laugh with? Who do you connect with when it comes to hobbies or shared experience? Not the historical shared experiences, but current hobbies, sporting events, games, that kind of thing. Who are those folks for you? Now, before I switch to the next sort of kind of image and topic here, stop and think for a second about what if we do put too much on one person? If you did write some names down or kind of take a mental tally, what if one person's name showed up every time? Or what if there were some keystones that didn't have anybody's names or we didn't know who to put? What the research is telling us is the connectedness and the correlation to, I'll use my words here, a happy life, a fulfilling life, an engaged life. We're seeing that there are these different dynamics that people benefit from and different plants that need watering, right? If we're always watering the same plant, it might grow and be wonderful. But what we're really looking for is more of a menagerie of plants on our windowsill, so to speak, if I'm not mixing too many metaphors. I think sometimes it's interesting to flip the script a little bit and think about what if it was missing? What if I don't have somebody who I can reach out to for practical help? What if I'm trying to fix everything myself or spending too much time on Google or YouTube trying to educate myself? Now that might be of value and that's important, but it's this almost the existentialism of realizing I don't have anybody in this particular category or in this particular space to talk through about a stressful day or a negative event that happened. What's that experience like to miss it? And then if we do realize that we're missing it, or I'm mixing metaphors here, but if these 7 different plants have not been watered the same, what steps do I need to take to carve out some time to make that happen? The next thing I want to talk about that is very much in parallel with these 7 keystones is to imagine a grid, just a cross grid like that. And on the top of the line on top of here is energizing. On the bottom is depleting. And then on the horizontal line on this side is frequent. And on the other side is infrequent. So now we're looking at thinking about our relationships in terms of frequency of interaction and contact, and then the extent to which that relationship energizes us or depletes us. Now, if you were to use this grid, you'd actually put names on here and try to get a sense of maybe the major players in my life, my closest friends or family or particularly important colleagues or coworkers, because maybe I come to find out that there's someone that I work with frequently that is depleting my energy. And if I realize that I'm engaging with someone who I need to be in contact with frequently, but they're taking energy from me, what do I do? Now, there are different problem-solving avenues available to you, and you could reach out to your EAP to learn more about what those would be for you personally in your context. But it gives us a nice starting point. The flip side being, what if you really enjoy someone's company? Let's say it's more along the fun and relaxation keystone, maybe mixed in with some emotional closeness and confiding. So a best friend, perhaps to use a colloquialism, but you don't contact them very much. Maybe you don't live near one another. So now we have an energizing individual that we're around infrequently. And what might my problem solving look like in that direction? What it does is, I think in a way that's really helpful, is it kind of quantifies a bit of strategy around realizing that things aren't how I want them to be. And that's an important non-judgmental realization to make for our emotional, physical, social wellness in general, is the willingness to be aware that I'm not content with how things are. And then we layer non-judgment on top of that. Just is what it is. Because if I have a point A, if I have a sense of where I am, that gives me the starting point I need to create point B, like a direction that I need to head in. And so I think putting pencil to paper sometimes can be very helpful in general. But in this sense, we're talking about something as amorphous as a relationship, and its dynamic and its history and the personalities involved and the ups and the downs and the conflicts that we've been through and resolved or maybe not resolved. So how do I make a fitness plan, right? I can write down on a piece of paper that I need to go to the gym and do this exercise and then that exercise and then that one for these reps and this many times and these weights. And I can write that down, and that gives me a guide for the next time. Maybe instead of working these 4 muscle groups, and then I have 3 to go to make it 7, I do 3 the next time. You can translate that strategy into something as amorphous as our social fitness, so that, and I'm not saying you have to make a grid, although you could, but that there's a strategy, that there's a method to moving away from an experience that isn't as fulfilling as we're looking for it to be, towards something more fulfilling. So with that, I wish you all well. If I had to ask for a couple of takeaways, one would be realizing that social fitness takes work, that relationships don't work on themselves or heal themselves. They need attention, they need time, they need effort. I hope that you have a sense of not a specific strategy, but knowing that there are specific directions you can go in, that research has given us labels, have given us these keystones to think about who is in my life, how frequently, to what extent, to meet what need, so on and so forth. What am I missing? And that can give you some ideas of what you might want to do differently so that your social fitness is getting up to where you'd like it to be. And before I bid farewell, I have a request for all of you, and I will sit quietly for 10 or 15 seconds. And it is this: to pull out your phones. Think about someone that you thought about in these last few minutes and send them a message. Tell them that you're thinking about them. Ask them how they are. Say, hey, it's been a while. How are you? Whatever the case may be. Because if I assume that someone is thinking, I really need to reach out to this person, I've been putting this off, it's been too long, now's as good a time as any. So I'll sit for just a second, and I hope they all reply. I hope everybody gets a reply, and that you experience it as beneficial. Before I go, I will say, if you are personally struggling in general, if you need some support, if you need someone to talk to, if you need to tap into some resources, please reach out to your EAP, your Employee Assistance Program. There are probably more resources and supports in that program than you might even realize. So take a minute to explore what options might be there for you. They're invaluable resources. I've enjoyed being a part of the employee assistance world for a while now, and I can't emphasize it enough. I'd like to thank everyone for the time today. I think perhaps if you watch this, it's something you chose to carve out time to do, and I appreciate that. Again, my name is Chris Wachholz. I'm a psychologist here in Minneapolis, and I wish you all wonderful days.